This is WeBurlesque.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This is the WEView, and I am Miss Harlem Knights. I am the moderator of this special episode of the Black Burlesque Caucus. We are just here to chat about things that are uniquely Black in the burlesque world. I am joined this evening, afternoon, morning by the illustrious guests. Starting off in no particular order, we have Bougie Bitch coming out of Colorado. We have Foxy Bella Freak coming out of New York. We have Pound Cake coming out of Ohio. We have Monet Hasidy coming out of California. And we have Professor M coming out of Connecticut. And myself coming out of Illinois, aka Chi-Town. So I'll go around and we're going to do an icebreaker first. And I'm going to just popcorn it, I guess, and ask everyone to, one, give us where you're specifically from in the state. And then two, share with us who, if you can name one person or if you can name maybe a troupe or a show that you went to that was produced by a Black producer that first caught your eye when you decided that, you were going to pay a little bit more attention to the world of burlesque. It could be either when you got started or it could be before you got started, any timeline. So go ahead, Pound Cake, sound off.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Pound Cake. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, but you can call it Cleveland. Um, Sadly, when I got started, I never saw a burlesque show that was produced by a Black person until I had already been doing it. But if I can do a shout out, I would like to shout out a festival I did last year, Juneteenth Jams. Bernie Mac, or not Bernie Mac, Bernie, yeah, Mac.
No, you're right, Bernie Mac. Yep.
Yeah, I was right. Yeah, I was like, wait, is that the other guy? No, Bernie Mac in Detroit.
Yeah, good people. Bernie Mac, aka Caffeine Love. They are a very, very talented both drag king and burlesque performer. And they perform pretty evenly on both sides of that coin. So, speaking of people who do dual roles, how about you, Foxy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Foxy Bella Freak. I am a burlesque performer here in New York City. I'm also a drag king known as Uncle Freak. I I'm from Uganda, East Africa. So usually I say yes. I live in New York, but I'd prefer Uganda, New York as the way it's described where I'm from, because I've lived here for 20 plus years, lived in Africa for until I was 21. Yeah, I produce Frolic, which is currently the longest running Black burlesque show here in New York City. I started performing in 2017. So this year will be my 9 year. I couldn't believe it. My 9 year performance anniversary as a burlesque performer. 8 years as a drag king and 8 years producing. The very first performer that I saw was Mia MVP, and she was performing at a space called Galapagos Art Space, which used to be in Williamsburg. And she was the first and only Black performer I had seen in different shows I'd been to around New York City. But she stood out. At the time, she had this really beautiful dreadlocks, and she's stunning with or without her dreadlocks. And I was just very much impressed and surprised to see a performer with natural hair performing. I'd never seen that, let alone a Black performer. And then after I saw Poison Ivory, and that was, I think, when I decided I wanted to take a class. But it wasn't until a couple of years later that I really did take a class after my daughter was a little older.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a class in 2017 with Brown Girls Burlesque, which was a incredible troupe here in New York City that catered to Black and brown people who wanted to learn about burlesque, the history of burlesque. And they had a showcase. It was fantastic. We learned everything from makeup to performing style to the history of Black and POC performers in burlesque specifically. So that was my introduction into burlesque, but specifically um, Black burlesque. And I just remember thinking there's just far too few Black-led, Black cast shows here in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And a year after I started performing, I had a I started a show called we used to be called the Sparkly Ass Coven, and it worked for about 6 months until we kind of disbanded, and that's how that show became Untamed Afro Burlesque, which I had to change the name after a while to now, which is Frolic. So that was my introduction into burlesque. But since then, obviously, I've seen and booked and performed with so many burlesque performers from New York City and around and beyond. And I do see a growth, but I also see, we're also kind of stagnant, it feels
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, it shows in the support we get, in the promotions we get. There's
Mm-hmm.
clearly a difference in
Mm-hmm.
support. And having run this show for 8 years, I can tell it's very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Every single show, I want to quit. Every single show. But I keep going because, again, we're probably one of five productions here in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
and that's entirely Black run and Black led.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten a lot of people. We had one person actually come to a show and say, "Well, why you so?" I don't know. Trying to say we're dividing the community, but it was implied that maybe I should open it up to others. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Well, you can find any show in New York City with all white casts, all skinny people, and this show represents everyone,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of race, well, not Black folks, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but regardless of their background. I like high glam burlesque, but I
Mm-hmm.
realized very quickly that that wasn't for me. I
Uh-huh.
realized I'm not that demographic because I'm African and I tend to want to perform to the music I like and
Mm-hmm.
know, which is African music.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction, my progression into producing, and what I hope to continue doing until maybe next year. But yeah,
Every year is a baby. It's okay. Well, thank you for giving us 2026.
every year I want to quit. Every year I already have the quitting email
It's
already,
in the
but
draft.
it's there. Yeah, it's in the draft. Yeah,
I hear
but it's
that.
for those of you who produce, you know how hard it is. You
Yeah,
know how hard it is.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, speaking of, let's segue into another guest on this panel. We are going to ask you, Professor M, give us a little bit of your background, where you're located, and, just what caught your attention. Who up in this Black burlesque world caught your attention so many moons ago?
Hi, well, I am here in Connecticut and I live in a town called Stratford. It is next to Bridgeport, which is the largest city here in Connecticut. And I've been in Connecticut for 20 years. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I'm a West Philly kid through and through, and don't anybody forget that. It doesn't come out too often, but the Philly really does come out if you want to talk to me about sports or sandwiches. Either one, but especially sandwiches.
Mhm.
I'm a real snob when it comes to sandwiches. I can talk for about 25 straight minutes about sandwiches alone. But when it comes to black burlesque and black produced burlesque, it is quite poetic that I'm here with Foxy Bella Freak because Foxy is one of my earliest memories of seeing a black produced burlesque show, going to see Frolic, going to see Hairology, seeing all of the work that she's doing. I remember one very, very hot summer night in the Wow Cafe Theater. And just we were all sweating, all of us were sweating all over everything. Vera Sapphire was like next to me and was about to do her tape act, the one where she's in the trench coat and she's got the video recorder, the camcorder, and just like she's like, I'm barely keeping my hair together because there's so much heat in this room.
Oh my God.
But but seeing Foxy and seeing her work was inspiring about how I could put a spin on this as a black person in burlesque. I had been in burlesque for maybe a couple of years, but I was very much in the suit and tie hosting and singing songs and shows mold at that time, and I was trying to think of ways
Yeah.
to switch things up. And a lot of conversations that I have been a party of with Foxy over the years has influenced how I put my burlesque together and how when I started producing the things I wanted to do, such as how I was going to document all of the work that I was doing, making sure that I had photographers or that I was taking pictures or had someone taking pictures for me. If I could get video, having someone doing video for me, or even a year ago, I got a trademark on the name of my show, and that came from a conversation with Foxy. So Foxy was a big part of that, but also being up here in Connecticut where people don't think black people live. Yet they are here. They are here, and they are here in force, just concentrated in the cities and around that area. But um always in the Hartford area, there's Alexa Lefevre, who I've now worked with for a bunch of years, and Mistress Leona Starr, who I've worked with a bunch of years, and just each of them doing their own thing. Alexa being the Empress of Tease and doing a lot of like really cool classic stuff and funny stuff, and Leona being just like goth metal, Hello Kitty, like all of like a Hot Topic come to life. That's like her style, and it's been really fun to do that. So that's all a part of the burlesque and the black burlesque puzzle for me of being in Connecticut by way of Philadelphia.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of alt and characters and cosplay and all the things, why don't we jump to you, Monet? Tell us about your style of burlesque, where you're from, where you're based out of, and who were your influences, who caught your attention that is a part of the Black burlesque scene that made you say, you know what? Yeah, this is definitely something that I want to, sink my teeth into, so to speak.
I am Monet City. I am from Nuts, Sacramento, California. That's what I like to refer to it as because it's a bunch of dicks around here. Um, I have been doing burlesque for 18. I started at 30 years old. 18 years, 38 years old. Hold on. 30 years old, 18 years. My actual origin story is that I worked at Chuck E. Cheese at 18 and wanted to be a stripper, but instead I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. Hence why my bio is from Chuck E. Cheese to Tassel Tees. At 30, there was an ad on Craigslist for a burlesque troupe that was starting, and I started doing that and pole dancing. Um, I was the only Black person in burlesque in Sacramento for a long time. I think the first time I saw somebody else who was also Black on stage was Pearl Noir at the Fillmore in San Francisco on Data Von Teese's tour. And when I saw her, it was just very inspirational for me because she was doing cartwheels on stage. And at the time when my body could do cartwheels, I did cartwheels too. And that was amazing. I kind of had to start kind of self-producing because, we have to create our own spaces. There's no room for us to tables. We make our own tables. Um, the great late Dahlia Cash. They're a great inspiration. And during quarantine, we were able to co-produce the Ratchet Horror Picture Show, which to me was reclaiming Rocky Horror Picture Show for myself because I had such a terrible, horrific time with my local cast. And we were able to reclaim that for me, and I was very grateful. And shout out to Melange. People should still support that show. Shy Bester is keeping it going. But with the Ratchet Horror Picture Show, it was wonderful because Samson was in there, Madam Bessie Snow, Sweet Belize, of course, Dahlia, Shy Bester. It was just a wonderful thing. And it's frustrating because, especially with something like Rocky Horror Picture Show, everybody's caught up on screen accuracy and all this stuff and how it's very white. Rocky is very, very white. And so to take this thing that is known as pop culture as it's part of queer culture, but it's also part of white culture, and make it for us was a wonderful thing. It was recorded. I have not played that recording for a while. I've been holding it off for a while. First, I was going to do it around the anniversary of her passing, and then certain things, and then Black History Month. But this Black History Month has been a whole fuck shit of stuff.
Now you had mystery
So
right when you said it the first time. Mystery. What the fuck is going on?
I'm looking towards Melanated March.
Yeah.
Let's just extend the situation because everything has been fucked up, and we're proclaiming Melanated March. Okay. That's what needs to happen, because the state of burlesque right now is in shambles. And it's like we took so many strides forward, we're going backwards at an accelerated, alarming rate. And it's frustrating because it's like, it's listen to Black women until we say something you don't like. And it's so sad to see so many productions put on by our Black counterparts right now having low ticket sales, trying to be canceled. At this point, I'm just kind of like, and this is how I started going to Disneyland, to be honest, was because I needed to get away from burlesque and I needed to find my joy someplace else instead of spending money on festivals and being around these people who cause so much aggravation and trifleness in my life. I started going to Disneyland, and the stuff I have to deal with in Sacramento is still ongoing and frustrating. Like, I can get $10,000 art grants from the city of Sacramento with the National Endowment of the Arts for do a Black burlesque festival, but I couldn't find a venue to rent to me. That's how bad things are here for me in Sacramento. So I appreciate WEBurlesque for putting this together, because there's so much and people just keep ignoring it, and I'm fucking tired of it, to be honest.
I hear that. Well, we're gonna round it out. As you can see, I kind of had a popcorn, but I had a little method to my madness, because we just had the seasoned vets, the people who have been 10 toes down in this thing, introducing themselves and giving us a little bit of taste of what they've experienced in their career. But I happen to be a newer person on the scene. I am experienced in the world, but in the world of burlesque, I am still in I call novice stages. I'm getting a little bit better. But with that being said, I am going to ask Bougie to go ahead and round this out, as I think you and I are neck and neck with like how many years we've been in this thing. I think everyone else on this guest panel has been really down in this, doing the burlesque thing since before COVID, I believe. So tell us about your experience, and just, a little bit of everything, just kind of like piggyback off of, what everyone has been adding on to the conversation. Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, thank you. I am in Colorado Springs, and if you've ever been to Colorado Springs, it's a very white place. So I first experienced burlesque at a Pride Festival in 2012 in the park, and I saw the local Colorado Springs burlesque troupe performing there. It was amazing, and burlesque with Christina Aguilera was one of my favorite movies, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. So then in 2021, I decided to take a class with that troupe. Ended up joining it. They've disbanded now, but it was all primarily white people in the troupe, a couple of Latino and Latina folks, a couple of indigenous peoples. And I think the first time I saw Black burlesque was up in Denver. Alorum Velvet had a show called Melanated Menagerie. So that was my first introduction to like live Black burlesque. But being from Colorado Springs and having my experience and knowing what type of city I live in, when one of our homework assignments in the boot camp I took was to research a burlesque performer I looked up a lot of information on Lottie the Body, one of the legends who has passed. And then I did some research on like Gigi Holiday, and Samsonite and everything. So I kind of was watching things online. And yeah, I started producing, oh my gosh, a little over a year and a half ago. So I have a show here, and one of my main goals of that is to just highlight some of the talent that isn't highlighted. We do have a lot of shows here that are all cis, white, skinny, conventionally attractive women on stage. So I try to put everybody on stage. I have at least half of my cast is always people of color. I get some disabled people up there, differently, like trans people, queer people, everybody. So I'm trying really hard to like turn around the burlesque scene in Colorado Springs. So slowly but surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah, it sounds like I said, like we have that commonality of we are newer, but again, we're not new to the world of being a Black person moving in this world and being very aware of our Black identity and wherever we find ourselves in our respective dots on our maps. Just for adding on to the group's purposes, I will share with you all the answer to the same question. First off, I am my cousin and I go back and forth. Sometimes I say I'm a shy Yorker, and sometimes I say I'm a new Chicago. And that's because I am originally from Harlem, born and raised in the neighborhood, went to middle school in Washington Heights, went to high school in the Bronx, and did not leave New York City permanently until I was in my early 20s. So I have been now evenly split. 2026 does make 20 years that I've lived in Chicago. I'm now in the suburbs though, because I know people in Chicago get real nitpicky like New Yorkers do when people say that they're from New York, but they're from Albany. Um, so now I live in the suburbs. I live about 10, 15 minutes outside of like the like formal proper city line. But I Chicago all day, every day. I got plenty of parking tickets to prove it. Um, so my story is a bit unique. I actually quite literally met a Black burlesque performer by the name of Goddess Brickhouse back in 2018. I had just given birth to twins. I was very depressed. I was very down. I was very self-conscious about my body and everything in that space and time. And we all, if we've ever either seen Goddess on, video performing or like been in their presence, we know that like they just have a very welcoming, nurturing vibe and energy that even if you're like, damn, this motherfucker fine as shit, you still just feel like, I just want to hug though. And you smell so good and you're so cool. So we ended up bonding in years later, in 2022. We had been friends by this time for several years. They invited me to come out to Jeezy's Juke Joint. And my very first burlesque show in general, not just Black burlesque show, but just burlesque show in general, was Jeezy's Juke Joint. And I was honored, quite honestly, to see many of the people that you all have mentioned in this chat already, and a few other notables. Queen Kwan's festival debut was this show as well. So I was just heavily inspired. I fortunately found out that one of the local acts was a all-Black founded and led burlesque troupe that is still active to this day, Body Confidence for Queens. And I connected with Mocha Mocha 2.0, auditioned for the troupe, and then now here I am. I am no longer a part of the troupe, but all love, all respect, all, you know what I'm saying? Just, you gotta be able to acknowledge where you came from, because that's really, really important, especially if you were fortunate enough to be introduced to this whole entire thing through people who look like you.
Hi, I'm Jen Ponton.
And I'm Lillian Bustle.
And we're the hosts of All the Fucks,
a podcast about vulnerability.
But it's more than just that. It's nostalgia.
It's unrequited crushes.
It's the mortifying moments that make you want to crawl back inside your own belly button.
Ooh, and somehow it's sometimes about pelicans.
A pelican allegory, if you will.
Oh, I will.
So if your heart has ever felt like a skinned knee,
oh, you'll fit right in as one of our fuck buddies.
All the Fucks. A storytelling podcast wherever you listen.
Let's talk about a topic that I think is really, really important, and we all have pretty much touched on it in this. So essentially, I would like for you all to just kind of expand on your thoughts about erasure is where I would say the general umbrella of this topic is. But we have all, regardless of how long we've been in this, we have all been motivated by the need to see ourselves represented in wherever space that burlesque is happening. And I think that the motivation behind that is wanting to avoid erasure. And we see that happening with, off stage. We see how music has become gentrified, how K-pop has become basically the Motown groups of the back in the day, eras have just kind of like morphed into their current K-pop thing. We see it in, fashion trends. We see it in how things are co-opted and culturally appropriated. So I would really love, and of course anybody can just like jump on this. I would love to hear thoughts on, what, your steps to keep moving through this, regardless of like actively seeing like we don't have a problem leaving you out of this conversation. Like, how do you find yourself pushing through those thoughts, and what part of erasure are you looking to by producing, your show or by performing on stage? What part of that erasure are you looking to avoid, essentially, or inspire folks to do that? Go ahead, Monet.
Well, I feel a lot of things that's happening is because I hate to say the word dumb, but I feel like a lot of things are being intentionally dumbed down right now. The rise of ChatGPT for people to even find out how to read a story to their children. I saw a post from somebody who used ChatGPT so they can get a response getting roasted. You ain't got friends who could do that? Your friends could do that better than that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has to do with America's reckoning of not recognizing that we actually inspired Hitler. That's the thing that gets lost in so many things. Our Jim Crow laws inspired Hitler. We inspired Hitler. So when people start to talk about, oh my God, Nazi Germany and all stuff, this has been happening in America. America is literally founded on genocide and slavery and such atrocities. And they don't want to be reminded of that. So a product of that is how everything that we build for ourselves, because we want to be separate but equal, but they don't want us to have it, right? Black Wall Street, Rosewood, all those things. Anytime we try to build something separate for ourselves, it gets taken away from us. And then anything that we do that we get disparaged for or talk bad about, for example, like our hair, our lips, our butts, our earrings, how we dance, how we do everything. But if somebody else does it, it's okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That kind of swings back to like anti-Blackness is global. I don't know what anybody tries to say on every continent of this planet is anti-Blackness. It's not something that we can ever escape from. And it's just frustrating on a constant level that we're bombarded with this and we're never giving the grace. We're never allowed vulnerability. We're not shown our humanity. And it's just frustrating because you see, like, for me, I came from the Pole world too. How many like Russian and non-Black people teach in twerk classes?
Yeah.
As if it's just a movement and not cultural.
Yeah.
That's why I call them all lies, because for real, it's hard because they disappoint us at every turn that they can.
Yeah.
So in burlesque, especially, how even if we are a certain way, we can never be considered classic. We can never be considered this because we're the Black version of something instead of just being the version in the blueprint. And part of this is a shout out to Egypt Black Now, because isn't she like the highest holder of the most
title? Yeah, the most decorated. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
And the fact that so many people sleep on that or ignore that or don't give it as much weight as actually it is discouraging in itself. Because I also, from being in Sacramento, I am the most awarded person here. I have done more festivals than everybody in Sacramento probably put together in 1 year. All together, like my career. But it's frustrating because, like, to get that jump for any of us from being a participant in a festival to being a feature to a headliner, but then you see all these people who come from different backgrounds who are less melanated who get these opportunities just because. I'm tired of having to work harder. And it's sad because even in our own spaces, unfortunately, there are even Black shows that are allowing white people in it. And it's like, we get vilified for creating spaces and gatekeeping. We're not allowed to gatekeep. Everybody else can gatekeep but us. And that needs to change.
Yeah, definitely. Foxy, please go ahead.
This resonates a lot with me because the main show that I have, Frolic, which is all Black burlesque show, we've got subsets of Frolic, and one of the shows is called Hairology. And when I started this show, everyone I asked for advice, and I mean every single person, said they thought it was a bad idea, including Black performers. They thought it was a bad idea because of the context, subject matter, and how people would react. And they were right. People didn't react well. In fact, we almost had a fight at our first show during the panel between one Black woman and a white woman. And I'll explain why. So Hairology is a Black burlesque and drag introspective about Black hair and cultural appropriation. So we cover all those topics, but we mostly focus on hair. This is our 4th year. The first year when we did the show, I don't know why, but I was compelled to do a show that talked about the experiences of Black people because I felt that was what was necessary. And I felt that the injustices we face, the discrimination we face is very much tied to us as Black people when we're on stage, putting ourselves out there performing. The ridicule Black performers get, and I know you've all experienced this to some degree, is it's like it's almost as if we're immoral for doing burlesque, but a white person does it, and this person is edgy, this person is interesting. I have had that experience in my own personal life. I still have that experience in my life with people who think what I'm doing is tantamount to a murder. And I don't understand it because in the same breath, if a white performer is doing what I'm doing, it seems to be, accepted, revered, considered something monumental. But if I do it, it's not. I had to remove the background noises. That means everybody who didn't agree with me. And that was very difficult because I wanted support and I wasn't getting it. So doing the show was really, really a gamble, but it paid off. Granted, it's taken so long for it to get to where it is, but it's because I knew and I felt there needs to be direct correlation between the way Black bodies are oftentimes treated in a way that is not comparable to our white counterparts in performance art. And you see it all the time. Black performers have to work 2-3 times harder, including Black producers, just to get people buying tickets or even just to sell out a full house. I do a show whether we have 3 people in it, whether we have 10 people in it, whether we have 100 people in it, because I believe our professionalism will speak for itself and our work will speak for itself. We see it here in New York City. Almost everybody has a home bar. I have a home bar now, but it took years to get that home bar. Years. Jumped from venue to venue to venue. Different demands. People telling me maybe you should make it more diverse. By diverse, they mean add more white people in your show. When my show is clearly for and with Black people. Everybody's welcome. We welcome our allies. We welcome people to come see the show. But it was important to me to try and bridge the gap between the number of shows that I was seeing that had Black performers. So initially, we used to be a monthly show. And then we became a bi-monthly show because, again, we don't have the funding. And like Monet expressed, even if I did have the funding, finding a venue is still tough. Even here in New York City, it is incredibly difficult. Even if I gave them a check for $1,000 every week, say the rent was that ridiculous. It's as if they don't trust that we can bring an audience. And I don't blame them for thinking that either, because it reflects in how people attend our shows. Now, we've been lucky that we have gotten an audience and people who support us. But again, these are audiences that we have built painstakingly for the past 8 years. So I honestly feel that most of our shows would be further along. But why? Funding. And we're trying to pay, we're trying to be equitable when we pay. I'm one of the highest paying producers here in New York City, but I can tell you that's not an easy thing to do. People think it is. It absolutely is not. I go above and beyond to make sure we pay everybody $100 and up. And even that in itself, we're very lucky if we break even.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't know if this will change, to be honest. I've been doing this for so long, and I hear the same story from other producers who were here before us. So it feels like this is like you're on a wheel, just turning, turning, and you'll see all these beautiful Black-led shows run by Black producers that will come and go, very few with longevity. And I'm not sure what the answer is there. I do know that if more of our white counterparts expressed interest in helping us elevate our shows, and by elevate, not the talent, but just how it is we are marketable to others, because the audiences that do go to these shows mostly go to these white run shows, I think it would make a difference. These boycotts that we have once a month, during the month of February for Black History Month, to me, I find them to be quite ineffective, to be honest, because this should be a conversation that should be had of how these shows should be supported all year round, not just for 1 month. 1 month does nothing, and that is my feeling about it.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, definitely relatable. I've been producing a show called Burlesque for what will soon be 2 years. Our next show, I had to absolutely take it down to bi-monthly. And it's for all of the reasons that you all have expressed. And my show was created out of necessity. I am a neo-burlesque performer. I perform the R&B. I wanted to see other people who perform the R&B. It seemed like the only time I ever would see people perform to R&B music was if it was a show that was being produced by my troupe, or, a Black show that came to town, or if I was out of town seeing a show that was produced by a Black person. But there was no like home-based show that I knew, okay, I'm gonna go see some Black shit. I'm gonna be able to say nigga and be comfortable, and nobody's gonna look at me like, ooh, or I'm not gonna see somebody mouth it and be like, hey, yo, what we doing? So definitely understand. And yeah, like I said, it sounds like erasure has been, kind of like at the forefront of a lot of our moves. Is that your hand up now, Bougie?
I wanted to echo a lot of what Foxy was saying, because even with my show that I've been doing, it's been really hard to get a regular audience. And just having, a year and a half is not nearly as long as Foxy. So I recognize that. And I can tell you've been putting in the work and everything. But I too have that feeling. After every show, I'm like, damn, do I want to do this next month? Because right now I am monthly. But on a couple of the things you said, like the audiences, I've been in when I was part of the troupe that I first started with burlesque in, we had a regular, bar that we performed at, and it sold out almost every weekend, but the audience was mostly white people, and they had their shows with the formula of 10 performers or 8 performers, and I was regularly the only Black one or the only plus sized one, or both, obviously. They might have another like POC ambiguous person, and you could tell the difference in the way the audience was reacting too. So there would be like, the tipping culture is pretty good here. I've seen a lot of different tipping cultures in different places, but you could see the difference in the way that the audience would tip me versus all of my white counterparts. And that was a, take your own tips with you type of place. And that's a lot of the reason why, like, at my shows, I do like a split tip, because the first performer, the audience isn't warmed up yet. The last performer, maybe they've already all spent all of their tip money. So, but you could see that in the way they reacted to people of color. And so that's part of why I started this show that I do, is to bring that out. But just like Foxy, sometimes there's literally 5 people in this audience in this big bar, and sometimes there's 50. And so we always do the show. And I made it a point, because there was a lot of conversation here like 2 years ago about performers not being paid adequately, or leaving a show with $15, after being on stage. We're stripping, we're naked, and and leaving with $15.
You said a $10 bill and a $5 bill.
Yes, 1 5.
50.
No.
Okay.
So
all right.
So my thing was, like I said to my spouse and like to a couple of my colleagues, I was like, like, I want to produce a show, but I can't until I can make sure that every single show I have money in my pocket to pay every single person a $50 minimum. And so that was my point. It's like, okay, I'm putting these Black performers and these people of color performers on stage. They're not ever going to leave here with less than $50. Even if there's 0 people in the audience, like, I'm not coming to a show with less than that. And so
yeah.
I think it's just hard seeing like what we see with like the audience in our shows, and then going to shows that are primarily white performers and seeing that they're sold out, and seeing that people are throwing stacks on every single performer. And then you see the conversations online where these allies are talking about like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to go to all of these all Black shows during February. And then you see the audiences, and they're not there. And it's like, where are you? You didn't come to one of them. And to Foxy's point, again, like February, and I was talking with some of my Black performer friends last weekend about how exhausted we all were, because in Colorado Springs, we are lucky enough to have most of the producers that are not Black will hand over their shows to one of us to do an all Black show. And then we get a lot of like donations and stuff for raffles, and people will donate just like tickets and everything. But even if I can pay from that, it still is like disappointing to see bodies in the room. Yeah. And then on top of that, it's like, yes, every single show in February was an all Black show, but now I've performed every single weekend and I'm exhausted. So we were talking about, it would be nice too to like have some, other forms of support. Like maybe you do have that all white show, but they all donate their labor, just as a solidarity, as some reparations. So
that actually, what you just said makes me think about something that I had this conversation. I don't even remember who I was talking to, but I said that I have a take on this. And the take on that is the reason why it's so easy for folks to do the performative thing in June is because that also runs into Pride Month. So if you're getting a Black queer performer, technically you're checking off multiple boxes, but we know the main box is Pride. Black History Month, February is so, and there's any other ethnic identity months as well, but we're going to talk about Black History Month because we are Black, and we're going to talk about our experiences. I can't speak for what others folks have, gone through. But I can say that for us, because back to Monet's point, anti-Blackness is universal. Having to essentially center Black people goes against what they have been fundamentally taught to believe in the first place. And when people are not ready to actually commit to what they are performing, they're going to pick the most convenient time to do the song and the dance, which happens to be June. That's why you got everybody willing to do the Juneteenth parties and the, Juneteenth everything here and not to say that Juneteenth isn't important. It absolutely is. It's imperative. But Black History Month, we know that Black History Month came from both of them came from a heavy ass space. But we also know that for a really long time, Juneteenth was a gate kept, private, only if you are of the culture, only if you are inside the house do you know about Juneteenth. Black History Month was started for everybody because it wasn't because we needed to know our history. It was because we wanted to tell y'all motherfuckers what we went through. Yep. And so I think the reason why it's such a difficult thing for people to really put the work in for this month in particular is because this month requires you to do a little bit more of that internal work and a little bit more of that realization that, like, I may not be a fundamentally racist person, but I am by proxy a racist person because I grew up in a society that places my race at the forefront systemically, not personally. You can literally be white from anywhere in the world and be sitting in American soil, sitting on American soil. And as long as you fit the aesthetic that whiteness upholds, you will be left alone. And that's just the system. That ain't got nothing to do with whether or not your mama was a good person or your daddy was a saint. So I think that, that is definitely something to think about. For us, but also like for those who are listening to this that are non-Black, like a lot of the reason why y'all are having such a hard time with this is because some of y'all are dismantling, some of y'all have fully dismantled, but a lot of y'all are only starting to unravel. And it's because burlesque is political. We are a mirror to what is actually happening in society because we do not all walk around with rhinestones on our bodies 24/7. We actually live in this shit. So of course we're going to bring it to this platform. Did I see Pound Cake? You had your hand up.
I did. I just wanted to chime in with 2 points, and I find them both like infuriating and also interesting. So here we have like, I'm going to talk more about like drag king because that's where we're having like a surge right now.
Would love to hear that, please.
So when I started, this is my 20th year. So when I started doing drag, it was me and Santana, I believe. So there were only like 2 Black drag kings in like my immediate area that I even knew about. And then I have a son who is Puerto Rican, but again, not Black. And I've had a couple kids that have like trickled out to other places that are Black. And what I find interesting is when I started, everybody was performing like, and myself included, everybody was performing like emo or like screamo or like that sort of music, right? And I just remember like looking in the mirror one day and being like, why? I don't know why I never thought I could do R&B. And I was like, why wouldn't? Because I don't dance. That's why. I'm always like, oh, I can't dance. I shouldn't do R&B. But like, that's why I'm not hearing our music. I'm not hearing Black artists at all. And so for me, like the thing that I'm really trying to work on in the erasure is being conscious of what music I'm doing and like making myself like really think, because it's not enough to be like, I don't really think about it. I just no. Like you have to, like, and that's privilege, that's privilege from coming from a white area and from being raised by white grandparents, and like I think it's really important, like when I see a cast, when I get on a cast and somebody is like, "Oh yeah, like here's the cast," and I notice that I'm the only black person, I'm like, "Who is darker than me that is on this cast?" Because I'm very aware. Like, yeah, sure, I could tick a couple boxes because I'm trans, or because I do boylesque, or because drag king, but like I don't want to just see the buck stop at me. Like I'm not about to pull the fucking ladder up, after me. Like that's and I really can't it's it's really sad to me that like the most black artists I've seen in rooms have been at like the Cleveland Burlesque Festival or Ohio Burlesque Festival, and festivals.
Yeah.
Festivals, not in my area. That's really upsetting. And the other point is that I've noticed something, that there is this just happened. There is a black king in my area who has a monthly show that he hosts, and he's always got a stellar cast, always diverse, and decided to do Black History Month, of course. Did this awesome Afrofuturism theme. Nobody showed up. And like when I say nobody, I mean like maybe 10 people. And they were really frustrated, and like these are all younger entertainers too, so it's like that double whammy. But the bar owner like jumped in and was like, "This is like crap. I'm making sure y'all get paid. This is not happening on my watch." So like she's great, but she started talking about like, I think, does anybody think that we could like maybe fundraise to like fund the show for the year? And I was like, yes, put a pin in that. Yes, do that. But I fail to see how it makes any sense that people can find $10 to go see a Pokemon show, but they can't find $10 to come support us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And all of that is part of just like the long standing, because of the way that segregation works. It's this idea that if you put black in front of the thing, then you have all these audiences that think that therefore it's only a space that black people can be in. And that something that is black centered has to be by default black exclusive. And that's never been the case. And and as for myself as a black person who is in a lot of different rooms, I'm like, yo, if you're not black and you want to hang with me, you need to go to black shit with me when like I want to go to black shit. And like, and if and if you feel not comfortable being in that space, like that's a question, that's a riddle for you to solve.
Right.
Like if you go, it's going to be cool. But like just ask. Like, yo, is this more of an
Yeah.
exclusive thing? 'Cause sometimes some things are, and that's
We'll tell
okay too.
you.
But like, yo, like if I am inviting you, get in there. Like
Yeah.
get on in there. And and Pound Cake, you talking about like performing to like emo music and stuff like that. I also think about how much erasure there is of all the spaces that we are in that no one thinks we're there.
Yep.
And that's been a large story in my life. I won't get
Yep.
that deep into it, but but when you were talking about emo, I was like, well, then like you can bring out some Bad Brains, you can bring out some Living Color, you can bring
Exactly.
out, and it's like, no, like now I get to show you like where this, who are in the foundations of this art that you're a part of, or this genre that you're in. And it was interesting you bringing up the R&B question because like I look like this. I walk on stage, people like automatically are like, okay, we have some idea of what this dude's gonna be and do. And I love, I like singing jazz, I like singing R&B, I like singing rock and roll. I'll sing anything as long as it fits my voice, right? But
Right.
this year, I have now done back-to-back shows where I sang Teddy Pendergrass, and I like never sang Teddy Pendergrass in
Beautiful.
public because I'm just like, I don't have that voice. I can't do this. Like, actually, dude, you can do it your way, and that's
That's right.
okay.
Who cares?
But
Make it
but there
yours.
was, but like it was like, sometimes in one of the like perils of black art and being a black artist, and you can go through any era of black art in this country and you will see these same discussions being had, is the idea of, well, do I want to lean into what they expect of me, even if that's the thing that I really would be good at and I can assume my destiny and do this one thing? Or do I want to give something different? Do I want to, sort of invert this and show another place that we're in? And for me, like singing Teddy was that. And it was like, yeah, dude, you're a black man from Philadelphia with a beard. Like, yeah, you can sing Teddy Pendergrass. It'll be fine. But it's like, yo, no, I want them to expect that, and then I go somewhere else. But
Right.
at this point, 10 years into doing this, I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go all the way in with this one thing and see what happens. And the response has been very positive. So, it's definitely, that calculus that I think we all do in some way, shape, or form.
I also want to interject that, this is another thing. Rock and roll was invented by Black people.
Well,
Hmm.
right. I guess I just
Um,
wanted to correct myself. I wasn't meaning like that. What I mean is like it was specifically the only people who did R&B were white drag kings.
mm, yep.
Yeah,
And so I'm like, but I like doing
which
that
which can pull
music,
on a
but like,
problematic idea of black masculinity.
yes, yes.
I mean, with like, I grew up in a predominantly Black high school and everything, but I've always listened to rock music because I am bipolar. I'm depressed. I've had suicide ideation since I was 5. So for me, songs from REM or Joy Division or The Cure and all that stuff spoke to how I was feeling. So that's always kind of what I've danced to. And that's just kind of like who I am. But when I did go to the Ohio Burlesque Festival and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, what was wonderful is that usually they started out the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame showing Elvis, the king of rock and roll. But they actually said people think that rock and roll was invented by Elvis, but it's actually invented by, and it shows all the Black artists that actually invented rock and roll instead, which is great. Another thing, I feel like the real change needs to happen, and I keep saying this to everybody. We can't talk about that tangerine shit in the White House if we're not willing to clean up the shit in our own backyards. We cannot change anything on a national global level if we can't act locally. And part of that needs to be that our so-called allies, if you see that your lineup that you have been booked part of is sealing popcorn white, you need to step back and say something because you need to be willing to sacrifice in order to progress forward. And all activism is that. You can't just say you're activist without actually doing the actions behind it. And that's part of the problem. So many people are like, oh, we're going to support these shows. But what about, like said, the rest of the year? I'm tired
Right.
of it getting dropped. I'm tired of it going back. It's already bad enough that this month, like I said, this Black History Month in 2026 has been so fucking full of fuck shit. Like, even with the BAFTAs, that's a whole other fucking shit we can get about. But if you're truly an ally to your Black counterparts in burlesque, you need to step up and say something when you are booked for these all white lineups. If you are producing these shows, you need to step back and realize that you need to make a bouquet and have somebody, make your shit diverse. And it's very frustrating that in this environment where even though women are the majority, we still have to deal with patriarchy so much. And this is the one environment where the ills of the outside world can actually be a place where we don't have to deal with it, but instead we still replicate it and deal with it here. And it's like, after almost 18 years, because I guess it'll be my 18-year anniversary, it's so frustrating to see that there was a momentum and then see it completely forgotten. And the same thing happened with Black Lives Matter. Everybody was so upset. Everybody was down for the cause. Everybody was protesting. People were boycotting. Things are doing stuff. And now everybody's just going back with the status quo. And it doesn't mean exactly that you need to be out with like signs and doing all that stuff. But part of activism also is Black joy. Our joy makes so many people so unhappy. Sometimes they can't stand to see Black, especially also Black women winning. But our joy is always overshadowed by some bullshit. And I curse a lot sometimes when I'm upset. And burlesque has got me, in addition to everything that we have to deal with outside in our outside world. We have to deal with it at work. We have to deal with the other hobbies that we have outside of burlesque. We have to deal with our housing. We have to deal with our food. We have to deal with our medical. We have to deal with all this stuff. And burlesque should be enriching our life, but not taking away from it. And
Right. This is supposed to be fun. Like this is supposed to, like we're supposed to do this to enjoy something, right?
Yes.
And to feel alive. And like you don't want to have all the mess of the rest of the world jump into the sandbox with us. I mean, up here, like there's a show that's coming up soon, and and it was like, oh, cool, this is a show. It's people I know. It's great and everything. And then I looked up and down the cast, and I was like, there is not one person of color in this show, and it's the same people. And I was like, no, I can't promote this. I can't share it. I can't share it. And I'm talking with like some of the other Black performers here just to be like, all right, let's figure out what we're gonna do, and whether we're going to address this show or not, like what are we going to do for us?
Well, what Professor M just mentioned is really important, wanting to support certain shows, but also seeing that they are, sticking to the status quo, just hiring their friends and people they know, and predominantly white folks or people who are even white passing. But I was going to say, in terms to the erasure of our stories and our performances and our productions, I always say, like initially we talked about the first people that we saw performing. It shouldn't have taken me that long to see my first Black performer, but that it took me that long to have seen my first Black performer being Mia, the MVP, and Poison Ivory, and then I saw Pearl Noir. But I was going to say the best thing we can do for ourselves is to document what it is we're doing. I don't care if you can't hire a photographer, use your phone. Get a friend, let them record everything, put it in a drive. This is how we maintain our stories, even when it won't be written about us. Someday somebody will. I mean, this is the history. The golden age of burlesque had many burlesque performers who we are now honoring. But these are our elders, and we can see they're struggling. They shouldn't be struggling in this day and age. They're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. But it shows you that the struggles they faced back then, we still face now. It's just not as apparent because it's so many. Well, it is apparent, but it's so many of us. But so few of us who are getting the bigger gigs, the gigs that really make you stand out, or being able to share bigger productions. So to me personally, I think we need to document what we do more often. You don't need to have a photographer. You do not need to have a fancy videographer. Just get a friend, have them. Whenever I can't afford a photographer or a videographer, I always try to get photos. That's the main thing, because I think it's important to have really good photos to someday showcase what we have done, for the performers to have profile photos that they can show to use for their production, for promotion of their works. But I think with the way the world is going and with how hard it has been for us to even find information about us, Bebe Badot does such a good job of documenting Black burlesque, but even she will tell you how difficult it was for her to get all that information. And she's a librarian. Okay. So the difficulty of getting that information is because our voices are stifled, but we don't have the resources to hire most of the time people to document our work. So we must do it ourselves. It doesn't matter what the quality is. You just need to, I need to be able to see that there was a performer in 1940, 1950, 1960, all the way to now. So it's good to see people trying to center Black burlesque. You know, Aquarius Moon is doing the exhibition in DC, which is amazing. Everybody wants to be a showgirl. I think that's amazing because it's Black burlesque at the forefront. You know, granted, it's born out of other unfortunate exhibits no longer being around or changing the way they. I don't know if I could mention it, so I'm not gonna. But right now I want to talk about Black folks. I don't want to talk about anyone else. But the point is, initiatives like that, people trying to document what they're saying. Monet had earlier talked about goddess Egypt Black Nile. Absolutely, she should be getting all the gigs. Okay, but you can see she's still considered a local performer. That's very well, but mostly in her local environment. This should not be the case. She should be flown out to perform everywhere. I should be able to say, hey, come do my show. But again, the erasure is in us, is not only the fault of our white counterparts who do not want to acknowledge our work, but we must take the reins and document our own work. So they can't say we weren't here. We know we were.
Right. So that made me, I was actually, it's funny that you brought this up organically, which was why I was like, let me just go ahead and let you cook. So I was actually going to bring up the Showgirl exhibit and ask, one, has anyone on the panel been able to see it in person? And if you have, what were your thoughts? And then also just in that spirit of, fighting erasure, documenting what we're doing, do you, or what are your thoughts on the idea of, instead of there being just one central, everyone make a pilgrimage to this one spot exclusively, how do we all feel about the idea of smaller exhibits being fed, nurtured, cared for, and growing in like the respective cities, so that the curation process can be a bit less taxing and daunting on like one sole person? Bougie, you have your hand up. How do you feel about that?
So I haven't been able to see the exhibit in person. I really would like to make it out, but I love that idea of having smaller, little bite-sized exhibits in a lot of different places, because travel is expensive and sometimes it's not super safe for everybody. Or even if it was possible, this is probably more expensive, but like a traveling exhibit might even be an idea that could get that type of stuff to everyone.
Monet, you had your hand
up. Well, about that, so is the traveling showgirl exhibit that's going on in DC right now anywhere affiliated with the Burlesque Hall of Fame?
I believe they're a sponsor, but I don't think they are the curators of it. No, I think that's brown skin showgirls.
But I know because with Beehoff, the museum itself closing, they could actually use this opportunity to have these pop-up things and maybe have regional curators to make the bridge, because it's unfortunate that history right now is not present with that. But if they can find a way to diversify what they're doing and help us at the same time, because they do have that visibility of being the Burlesque Hall of Fame, and making this traveling showgirl or showgirl exhibit something that could be pop-ups nationally, I think that would be advantageous for everybody, and it should be something that should be considered.
Did I see? Oh, yes. Go ahead, Professor M.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on that. I was able to contribute things to the exhibit. Unfortunately, my work assignment at the time kept me from traveling to DC, but I did get to put together a bunch of photo and video compilations. And going back to what Foxy was talking about documenting our work, being it stacks over time. So even if it's your first show and you might not do another show ever again, or you think you might never do a show ever again, or that was like, oh, this was just an ephemeral one-off thing. If you have a document of it, like 5, 6, 7 years, decades later, those things stack up. And the fact that I was able to put together multiple collections that featured every Black performer that I have booked in a show up here in Connecticut, and being able to put all of that together, like Foxy's in it, Harlem, you're in it,
Yeah, I
and
am. Yay.
it was yeah, and just being able to do that and to show the range that has come through here or has come from here was it. I felt very special that I got to do that, and
Yeah.
also know that this doesn't have to be the only one. There will
Yeah.
be more. There
Yeah.
will be other things that we do. And even in talking with Aquarius about it, I know that there are plans and ideas and designs about how to diversify this, how to show it in different places and bring it around different things or different versions of it or aspects of it to
Yeah.
show up, because there doesn't have to be just one.
Two things. One, just to clarify for the listeners, to clarify that Beehoff is a sponsor, but they did not curate. They did donate some pieces to the exhibit. The other thing that I was going to add to this conversation, especially as we talk about, multiple spaces and the preservation and the display of it and the history documentation of it being more accessible to folks. Um, Shout out Ignatius Arts Museum. That is the costuming museum that has been um, curated, and it started, I believe, last year in Davenport, Iowa, by, if y'all are familiar with Danny Diesel, she headlined in Ohio Burlesque Festival, I think 2025. And yeah, she opened up a museum, a bunch of fire costume pieces, posters, postcards, all different types of just accessories, things like that. Thrift shop, as well for folks who are looking to, costume on a budget. Like, it's a really, really dope, accessible space, and it was really important for folks like myself, because I just, full transparency, I am a single mom on a single mom budget. So the pilgrimage to Vegas is not one that, even if I could afford it, I just don't have the moral code to blow that amount of money on an event, knowing that I got two mouths to feed at home that rely on me. So making a 4-hour drive is not breaking my bank. And so I've spent considerable amount of time out there. I've worked with Danny as well. And just, have been able to kind of now understand a little bit more, because I'll just be honest with you. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but I have always felt, and I still feel, like somewhat disconnected from the Beehoff, like, weekender, like the whole, like all of the buzz and the tension and the buildup and the, everyone is just like, I want to go. It's like, that's like the burlesque cella, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I just don't. And it's not because I feel connected as far as like, okay, yes, I've worked with a lot of the performers who have been on that stage and who are active, participants in the organization, but also, like, I don't feel like my tax bracket. And we have to understand, once again, yes, burlesque is art, but art is also a mirror to whatever's going on in society. And let's not act like a lot of the folks who we have seen elevated only got to really, like, get to that point because they had to do twice the work, 3 times. They had to probably eat 10 times more shit than we do, now. And that, at that point, it can feel kind of like, okay, I'm in a whole, like my whole mindset around burlesque is not even where yours is. You're still looking at this shit as like a healing journey. And I done already had, I've been dog walked for the last 15 years, kiddo. You know what I'm saying? Like so for me, I've always felt just a slight bit disconnected because I'm just like, I don't right now feel like I still have on the training, I still feel like I have on the training wheels a little bit in certain spaces. So, um,
And
having the
it's also
accessible,
okay to not feel like you need to be a part of the burlesque industrial complex. Like
that's
there's
true.
also that there are so many
Yeah.
different flavors of this.
Yeah.
And if, like I don't feel like, the Weekender will ever be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I doubt my talent. It's not because I
Mm-hmm.
doubt what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, hey, I don't roll like that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Understood. Understood.
As a single parent, yes, cost is an issue. Um, and I've been doing burlesque for a really long time. I didn't realize it was a long time until I said that
You're
I don't
talking.
celebrate. Yeah, I don't really celebrate any of the anniversaries because one, I never have the time or the time
Mm-hmm.
to prepare. And also, I feel strange centering myself in that way for some whatever reason. That's
Mm-hmm.
a whole other story. But um, I think Beehoff really did their best to try and make it accessible to people, especially with the sponsorships for the membership, which
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated. I did
Mm-hmm.
it 3 times with the intention of going to the weekend. It never happened because again, it was always about the money.
Mm-hmm.
So I pivoted. How can I have relevance in what I do for myself? How can I
Yeah.
expand
Yeah.
just within the confines of where I am, and which is why I do the work here because
Mm-hmm.
I know it won't expand elsewhere.
Yeah.
I've done one festival in my entire life, which was the Ohio Burlesque Festival, and
Mm-hmm.
it was amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but it took me months to recover. And I
Mm-hmm.
just remember thinking, this is not responsible because we all have different situations, different family lives, work lives that allow you. For some people, they have the opportunity to travel. People do a lot of fundraisers, as we've seen. But I also, like I said, I perform to the music I like, which is African music for the most part. I do other styles, but African music is my forte. So I often feel that perhaps that's not the space for me, but
Mm-hmm.
that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
It just never worked out.
Yeah.
So I let go of the the guilt of having tried every single year to
Yeah.
go and figure
Mm-hmm.
and realizing it wasn't going to happen. It
Right.
wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I still apply for the
Yeah, of course.
sponsorship. I get it
Yeah.
every year
Yeah.
because even though I'm a producer, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still a person who has real life issues, real life
Right.
problems. You know, I
Absolutely.
think people have this misconception that because you have a successful show, that all other areas of your life are a success.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't be further from the truth
Amen to
for
that.
most of us. And so,
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be
we
thinking we have money. And I'm like, if we had money, we
oh.
wouldn't be doing this show in this damn bar now, would
That
we?
part. That
Yeah, I
part.
wouldn't be taking the bus home at midnight, getting home at 2 a.m. from a show. Hell no. I'd be
Right.
driving home. So
Right.
people don't understand the sacrifices that we make
Yeah.
to make our shows locally just as relevant as these big productions or festivals that are going
Right.
on. And I understand there are places to congregate and meet your fellow performers, but half the
Mm-hmm.
time, a lot of people are going back home dead broke
Right. Or
and
tired.
or
Energetic is done.
tired.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and some
Yeah.
people have the resources. So this,
Mm-hmm.
as in life, as in our regular muggle jobs, there's
Mm-hmm.
different economic sections, and
Mm-hmm.
so we have to recognize that. So for
Yeah.
me, it was just that it wasn't going to work as a single parent,
Right.
and just the reality that I don't, when I heard it was closing, there was a moment where I felt, oh, I missed out. I should have made it work. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is it couldn't work. And
Yeah.
that's okay. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we beat ourselves up over not being able to do something that we felt could have either
Mhm.
elevated our careers or put us on the map in some sort
Mhm.
of way. But I believe we can do that in the spaces that we're in,
Yeah,
and then just slowly trickle out to the
absolutely.
essence, you know.
No, yeah.
But
It's
I
like
understand the feeling of wanting to be a part of these systems, and sometimes feeling like you can't be, maybe because they're predominantly white or expensive. But
yeah.
I think we should give ourselves more grace and realize there'll be other opportunities. It may not be BHOF, it may be something else. You may
Yeah.
be the one to create something in your neck of the woods.
Mhm.
So I think we need to, at least I acknowledge BHOF has been a great resource for many.
Mhm.
Um, and I do think they tried. I think they tried their best to try and bridge the gap, especially with finances and what's expensive. I know they used to have these shared hotel situations for folks.
Mhm.
Great, but at
Mhm.
the end of the day, will you have a home to go to when you
Right.
come from BHOF? Will you be able to
Right.
feed your kids when you come from BHOF?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I stand when it comes to these competitions. And I also don't think those competitions are great.
Mhm.
Festivals are wonderful. But I think sometimes we overextend ourselves to attend these things when really it also would serve us to sit and figure out how to make our own tables, which is what I try to do with my shows, because I'm
Mhm.
like, it's not everybody can be part of the general sorry if I'm dragging on,
No, it's
be
okay.
part of the general community of burlesque, but we can
Mhm.
have pockets
Mhm.
of ourselves to share and and figure out how to make it work. I don't know what the
Yeah.
answer is, I really don't,
Mhm.
but I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we've done so far, and we should.
Tonight on Murder, She Wrote.
Hooray!
Hey. It's
Yeah,
kind of Piper Laurie and Brenda Vaccaro at a love child.
thank goodness.
I want to know
These
her.
nails. Yeah, where's her series? That's what
She's
I want.
fabulous.
The son is Joaquin Phoenix.
I know, isn't that nuts? And he is an ugly little kid. I'm sorry.
We're just like, hey, remember when this guy was in this obscure Broadway show in 1976?
Right? Look at him in those tight pants. Yum.
Well, because there's not
But
a
we
lot
do
really
get-
going on. It's
Yeah.
supposed I mean, unless you're listening to the dialogue, which frankly, audience at home, you can do without us. We're just
Yeah, do
learning
your own
about
work,
some of these
damn it.
backstory. But
Right.
Boswell put her up to it.
Yeah.
And then Trish had to be killed because she realized that Boswell didn't have her interests at heart because Teddy was the inheritor.
Yeah.
Playing her like a fiddle.
Oswell knew it, and Trish just gulped it down like one of those martinis.
And then tossed it onto the lawn.
And then lost her head. Poor Trish.
Trish loses her head. This is Viktor Devonne.
And this is Petra Fried
And this is Tonight.
on Murder, She Wrote.
Well, that actually brings me to my wrap-up question. We are getting to the end of this. So we talked about some really, really interesting, somewhat heavy-ish. Sounds like one across the board, we are all passionate about what we do. We are all determined to still show up for our community and for ourselves. However, we decide that our purpose is in that space. And so, of course, the Black experience, we all know across the board, is across the diaspora, is always a duality of joy and pain. And so, since we've already talked about some of the more painful topics, I would love for us to end on a more joyful note. And I want you to tell me what act you have in your arsenal that brings you the most joy. Just a quick description of it, and then tell the people where they can find you on social. And of course, if you want to plug anything that you got going on, but just be mindful that this is not the free version of this conference call. So we got to make sure we keep it cute and quick. Whoever wants to jump out, go right ahead and raise your hand. I got you.
Go.
Go ahead,
I'm
Monet.
Monet. I love my Titanic act. If anybody has seen Titanic, that is my most favorite act because I love Titanic. And the reality of that act is about a bunch of white people dying. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Disneyland, rhymes with Disneyland. If you like cats, titties, concerts, hair, and Disney, I'm your girl.
I heard that. Oh, and drop your Venmo, please, so that folks can go
Venmo
ahead and
is
reparate you.
Monet Hasidi, Mone accent T HA dash capital SIDI. Writing my name as a child was a problem.
I hear that. Who we got next up here to tell us the act that brings you the most joy?
I'll go. It's bougie. I have two. Okay, so I love slow burn. That's my whole entire jam. So I do a big boa slow burn to Too Much by the Spice Girls, a orchestral version of it. And that's been my signature for over a year. And then my other one is The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And I love that one because it actually has gotten me into all of the festivals that I've been into the last year. Because it's like, okay, well, I'm up here stripping, and then here I am, I'm playing the violin. So it's a surprise for everybody at the end. And so I really, the response to that, first of all, everybody knows that song. And so they immediately start clapping along with the beat. And then when the violin comes out, they're like, oh my God. So that's why I love it so much. It brings me so much joy.
And Black folks did reclaim country this year. Last year
yep, there we go.
Yes. And where can the people find you on the socials?
Facebook, just Bougie Bitch. Instagram is Bougie Bitch Burlesque. I also have Bitch House Productions on both of those. Venmo is just at Bougie Bitch with a J, BOUJIEBITCH. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank
Professor
you.
M, take it away.
Yeah. So last year I made up an act where I am Powerline from a Goofy movie. And I understood the power that that thing was going to have, even though I was not that big of a Disney girly at the time, right? I had not seen the movie at the time, but I knew that Powerline was sitting out there. And last year became about just like assume your destiny, like grab the things that you're supposed to have. And so this act, full Powerline breakaway costume, like the jumpsuit breaks away. I had it custom built. And it starts off with me singing I, and then I dance, which a lot of people don't know that I can dance. I often don't because I sing all the time.
Right.
But, so whatever I get to be like, oh, y'all didn't know that I also can move, but this whole ass body of mine. So it goes from that into The Power by Snap, and then ends with Atomic Dog. Like it is the most on the nose sledgehammer right down the middle of an act that like you'd be like, oh man, that's too on the nose. No, it's exactly what they were looking for. And by they, I mean us, because anytime that I perform anywhere and we're in that audience, it's like, yo, first I'm performing for me. Like, let's keep it a buck. I'm performing for me, because if I'm enjoying it, then you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, if I see us in the crowd, it's like I'm performing to you. Like this is to you right now. And anytime that I have brought out that power line, people were like you can hear the screams. And so it ends up bringing what I consider to be the mission of burlesque, or the mission as I interpret it in burlesque, which is to feel alive in these bodies we own for such a brief moment in time.
I love that.
And so I get to see people feel alive, and like that's like an essence of Black joy. It's an essence of doing all of that. And so yeah, that's the thing. You can find me on the socials at Marvin the Professor, and the Venmo is the Professor M, TheProfessorM, as in money.
Hey,
Send me that money.
hey, that reparation. All right, Foxy, would you like to share with us and wrap it on up?
I would say my oldest act is my favorite act. It's very old. Same act, and I learned this from Miss Prolna, which is she doesn't have a lot of acts. Did you know that? She has 5 or 6 costumes.
Mm.
I was really impressed by that because I remember thinking, how? I feel like I've seen you perform 1,000 acts. But she said, tailor each act to, you don't have to create a new act for every show that you do. That's a misconception unless a producer specifically asks you to. So point is, this act, Mama Africa, is my favorite. It's an all green costume. I made it with black and yellows and whites and lots of leaves, motifs type of thing. And it is to represent what I miss about my country, how green it is, how beautiful it is. I miss Africa so much. I've not been there in a long time, and I doubt I'll go back anytime soon, even to visit. So it's my homage to Africa, and it features one of my a combination of two of my favorite songs, which is a very old song, Agolo by Angelique Kidjo, and Bracket by Mama Africa by Bracket. So it's a combo of the two songs. And I just love it because when I perform to it, I imagine I'm in my village, which is very green and very beautiful. And sometimes I feel like I'm there, and I can smell the moss. I can smell, these feelings of Africa, memories of Africa that I honestly, I have no idea when I'll ever be back, but that's my favorite act. In drag, there's so many, but we're talking about burlesque right now. But in drag, all my acts that are my favorite are about toxic masculinity. It's what I'm known for. So,
Right.
But I think we do acts that resonate with us. I wanted to be a showgirl. I wish they could book somebody doing African music. That would be fantastic. So the point is, my favorite act is about my country, my music, and things that I miss that I probably won't see in a long time.
Yeah. And where can the people find you on the
yeah,
socials?
you can find me for burlesque. It's at Foxy, FOXYBLLE, Afrique, AFRIQ. You can follow my burlesque production page, which is at frolic_burlesque. That's FROLIC_burlesque. And if you fancy drag king stuff, at Anchor Freak 2020, some of my pages are private for reasons, but
no judgment here.
but yeah, that's where you can find me. And if you're ever in the city and we're booking, you just reach out to us. We don't do that many shows anymore, because it's again the venue situation, but we do our best to book as many and all Blast Burlesque performers who are coming in through New York.
Awesome. And then lastly, please tell the people where they can reparate you.
Venmo at Foxy1. Venmo at Foxy1, FOXY1. And upcoming productions, if anyone's interested, this Friday, I don't know if this will air before then. This Friday, we're at Brooklyn Art House for Frolic the Black and Burlesque Ball. And March 20th, which is our biggest, baddest show, will be at Lincoln Center. It's a free show. Tickets open up the Monday before the show. It's entirely free. So we're hoping to see a whole bunch of Black folks in there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Now, Pound Cake, go ahead and tell us what acts that you have in your arsenal that brings you the most joy. And then let the folks know where they can find you on the socials and all of that good stuff.
I think the act that brings me the most joy is my newest one. It's a Cupid act, and I have real flapping wings. And I sing Give Me One Reason by the great Tracy Chapman.
Yes.
Where will they find me on socials? Instagram, yo_king_pound cake. And the Venmo is real easy. Pay King Pound Cake.
Period. That's that. My act that brings me the most joy is Moments in Love. It is my first solo performance. It's actually the performance that I discarded for like maybe 9 to 10 months and just didn't perform it because I was so self-conscious about everything from the costume to the fact that like I was using props and just the props weren't working. And then I had to do an act that was long form and they had a minute requirement. And I was like, well, guess I got to drag that out the closet again. And I just switched out the costume that I was originally wearing for this green one, the one that I do now, the act in. And things just started to click. And the song itself was inspired from being a kid, not being able to watch TV after a certain time, but my mom would let me listen to the radio. So WBLS used to play The Quiet Storm every night at like 11 o'clock. I don't know why the fuck I was up at 11 o'clock at night, but I was just laying there looking at the ceiling, pitch black, with the radio on. And the first song that always would come on for The Quiet Storm was the version of Moments in Love that I performed too. So it's a little nostalgia. It's a little like, oh, look at little Harlem from Harlem all growed up on the stage now doing this grown woman twerking her ass shit. To this old school classic. And it's also brought me joy because it's the act that has landed me now on the radar. Like my inbox was not getting no motion the way that it's getting motion because people are requesting me to perform that act. So I'm proud because it's one of those acts that like I didn't like I instead of me just like saying, oh, it sucks, I'm not gonna do it, I just was like, let me rework this, see what is, you know what I'm saying, what it do. Not buy a new costume for it. And just kind of like do my thing on stage. And so now, here we are. Let's see, where can the people find me? Oh, Miss Harlem Night, MISS Harlem Night. I'll be honest, Facebook, I'm a little testy because my mama's on there and also Facebook is just a weird place for all kinds of reasons. I'm very particular. Sometimes like I will comment on things and then because I commented, the algorithm is just like throwing shit at me and I'm like, this is aggressive. So sometimes I get on there, I post my little posty post and then I get off. But if you want to add me as a friend, Harlem Night. I'm not on any other apps anymore. I'm off the Clocky app. I actually am one of the very like rare people who was never, I would always see what was happening on Twitter, but I never had to actually activate a Twitter account to be a part of Twitter. So I'm not on any other, I'm on Threads as Miss Harlem Night. And that shit is a hoot. I love that. But that's like no burlesque shit. Like I'm just over there talking my shit. Like you I'm not giving out no words of wisdom. I mean, I might be reposting like really, really, like on the nose things, but like if you want to hear me be headassery, you know what I'm saying? Like that'd be more the other apps. And money. Cash App, Harlem Night Burlesque, all one. That's probably the easier one because the other one is all the underscores and that's a lot. That's also the one that I pay my taxes on. And I don't feel like Black people should pay taxes on reparations, personally speaking. So go ahead, give me that good old not enough to claim nothing.
Listen, we shouldn't be paying taxes at all.
Oh, okay, that part. But Victor only gave us but so much time. We will be on here. I know we could. I feel like with the energy, we could be shooting this shit about all types of blackity black topics. But once again, shout out to Viktor Devonne. This was extremely important for us to do. We are absolutely grateful to, just one, I'm grateful to share space with y'all and not be backstage and be confined to backstage quick chatter because we either gotta hurry up and get on stage. We have a million things going on, or we just flat out don't feel comfortable divulging into certain topics in front of company, if you feel what I'm saying. So I'm grateful to be able to just, shoot the shit with y'all candidly, have, my Black History Month in on a more productive, positive high note. And, just overall talk about things that I think that, really are imperative to be spoken on, but sometimes, we just don't always know how to get that conversation started. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to Viktor Devonne. Follow WeBurlesque on all the socials. Also follow Silver Tusk Awards. And there's a bunch of other links in those bios that you can follow, including the Patreon, which is very cheap. It's the most affordable one that I have. It's only $1. All right, y'all. I hope everyone has a great night. I hope everyone has a very happy and productive actually no productive. Never mind. Word to Pochop. Word to the Nap Ministry. Don't be productive. Or you gotta produce some shit, but sleep, y'all. Eat, rest, drink some water, lay your ass the fuck down, take a nap, eat whatever the fuck you want, as long as it ain't gonna, kick you in the bucket. Don't be out here living on the edge if you got diabetes. I ain't saying all of that. Well, on that note, y'all, we are going to officially say good night. Thank you all for listening, and until next time.
The WEView is a product of the WeBurlesque Podcast Network, White Elephant Burlesque, and Viktor Devonne. All commentary is that of the creators of said speaking. So if I agree with them, that's great. If you agree with them, that's great too, but that's what they wanted to say. I love them for it. Please support the pod by going to patreon.com/weburlesque or finding some other way via the footnotes, and follow these fabulous entertainers who dared speak up at a time when so many people feel silenced. Love ya.